says start.
There we go.
Oh, we're on. We're alive.
We're live.
Woohoo!
We're live.
Don't write it.
We're coming into your living rooms. Welcome back to the Anachroschism. Left off last time. It was just about time to go sleepy by, but unfortunately, some people in this party can't go sleepy by without some consequences, positive or negative. So let's get some rolls out of the way. You guys can get these things rolled, and then we'll start tackling them one by one. So, Karash, you were one of the people with watch and a perception check from you. Lena, you were one of the people with watch and a perception check from you. Grail, I need a wisdom saving throw. And Lena, I also need a wisdom saving throw.
Hey, I also get
Okay.
I'm nearby. I guess it's up to you. Am I nearby enough for a perception check?
You can make one for the time that you're going to be up still.
13.
Okay.
Where is
11.
It's better than Karab.
where is the passive wisdom saving?
Well, no, you don't.
There's a saving throws section. It's a little bit
Your
right
passive
of the
is just
attributes.
passive.
There's a thing under proficiency bonus, and then it says like strength X con.
Oh, so I just do that?
Just
Yep.
click that.
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. Not great for me.
And Michelle's muted. So,
I rolled a 14 perception and a 10 wisdom saving throw.
I should probably jot these down real quick so I don't forget them. 14 perception, 10 wisdom, okay. Karash had a 7 perception. Isaac had a 13 perception, and I think you said a 14, a Grail?
No, I had a 6 wisdom save.
6 wisdom save. Did I hear a 14, or am I just now completely tripping?
Lena, I got a 14%.
Perception. All right, if I had that down, though. I don't know what I'm doing.
Tripping balls.
All right. So, in the early parts of the evening, as Karash and for some of the time Isaac are keeping watch, other than still continuously hearing crickets and a few owls and other signs of nature around you, and a little bit of rustling as the wind picks up in the evening, relatively uneventful. There is one point where, Isaac, before you kind of end up being like too tired to stay up for the night, you kind of spot out in the distance what appear to be 3 wolves, regular size, they're not like big dire wolves like Lena's. And as you see them, they seem to be observing the group, but they don't make any motions towards it, whether that's because of their assessment of the situation or what. But after kind of keeping an eye on what was going on there for a minute, they eventually head off on their own.
I'm tempted to start howling, but I don't.
Karash, the 3-4 hours of your keeping watch pass by relatively uneventfully.
Who had second watch?
Lena, I think, was going to sub for Grail.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Well,
Time
she's not. Is she actually sleeping, or are you just meditating, Lena?
I'm meditating.
Okay, I'll make sure you're not completely asleep before I go to bed.
By the
And I'll
time
say my prayers.
by the time the second watch starts, what time is it? About.
1, 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I would go to sleep.
All-nighter. So, Lena, a 10 on the wisdom saving throw. You try to settle yourself into this more familiar trance state, and you don't really have a sense of what you're looking for exactly. You know you're supposed to be kind of attuned to something. You should be feeling something. What you really get instead is a very hazy vision. And parts of it remind you of what you had happen when you were in Falstock and you kind of like went into a brief coma from like getting them hoisted upon you abruptly, where you just feel yourself. There are little brief, like intermittent scenes that are hard to latch onto, but they're interspersed among different elements. There's one where you are kind of walking through a forest without seemingly any end to it. No noticeable like landmarks, no other people in it, just kind of walking through at peace. There are times where you once again see that volcano that you look down upon, and it seems to be bubbling more out of control than ever. The one thing that leaves you towards the end of the time you spend meditating is this sense of warmth and light from the northwest, but it's pretty far off. You don't have a really good sense of the distance. It does not feel close by any means. It's also really difficult to pinpoint exactly where. So you have an idea that there was a compass direction for your vision. It would be pointing northwest, but as far as like how far, where exactly northwest, all that stuff, whether it's because you need more training or because this was too fresh or whatever, it still seems like it's pretty vague overall.
Then you have a nightmare that Isaac's yelling at you incessantly.
Isaac wearing
That
17.
would be the thing I would dream about, though.
Isaac
Absolutely.
just hitting you over the head with a circlet of blasting,
Oh man.
screaming at you about it.
That's correct.
And as you kind of get that very vague sense at the end of your time meditating, you kind of feel your shoulders shaking as Karash makes sure you're, cognizant enough to take watch.
And I nod to him, and I will go out and watch.
Great.
Take
She was
watch.
about to get the location, and Karash fucking ruined it.
It's okay, it already faded. It was not Karash's fault this time.
Oh.
Ooh. With the 14 perception, as you're taking watch in the late evening / early morning hours, it's still it's peaceful in a sense, especially in the sense that you haven't had a lot of time to be back in nature. We've sort of talked about this once before, where just having some of the sounds of the night that are close to what you would hear in the Soen wood is a nice way to kind of get some pause and some perspective. And for that kind of brief moment, it's like, yeah, not that you dislike city living, but these chances to reconnect, especially in light of what you had just gone through, are a kind of welcome respite from being trapped in your own thoughts about everything. But you still feel like you're keeping a pretty good eye around you as you keep watch yourself, and nothing else really sticks out. There's nothing that really approaches the camp or anything like that. It seems like you are in pretty good shape as far as no threats coming to assassinate your entire group.
Oh, man. Okay. Good. Yay.
This time.
This time, though.
Grail, with a 6 on your wisdom saving throw, you have a hard time sleeping. You spend part of your time thinking back to the fight with Aurelia and the fact that all of you, but in particular you yourself, were in some ways like completely inadequate in the face of something that size. And it's troubling, if only because you're like, I know I contributed, I know my team helped, and I know I was okay in the end, but like, man, that's the by far the biggest thing you've ever encountered personally, and it does leave a lasting impact of like, phew, I hope there's not a lot of other things like that in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when you finally do fall into a bit of a fitful sleep, because you are exhausted, not in the literal sense, in the figurative one, dreaming escapes you for a while, but eventually one comes to you. And it's a familiar environs. It's the farm. And things on the farm seem about as you left them. In decent shape overall. Plenty of sheep milling about in the pens, minding their own business. Eventually the scene kind of like disembodied. You're not involved in it. You're just kind of like a vision in it. You see your mother in the master bedroom, and she's sitting on the edge of the bed, legs just barely touching the floor because she's not quite as tall as your father is, and she has her head in her hands and appears to be sobbing.
Great.
And there are the now almost sanguinely or sickeningly familiar gold and white specks that surround your vision of all this as you see the ranch itself. And then it cuts away.
Oh boy, that's fun.
Tessin, you sleep well. It's nice having Thea around again. You guys have not been able to cross paths a ton in the last year, really, but especially the last 5-6 months. So between that and the fact that you all are, I mean, everybody's pretty tired after yesterday. It was a long day and a taxing one, but you in particular, it's like familiar, comfortable. So you sleep rather well. And Isaac, you have a lot on your mind, but still tired, and sleep takes you pretty easily. The next morning comes. It the sun cresting over the top of the tree line is a welcome burst of warmth. Because, again, it's not super cold in the evening, but it does have just that little bit of extra chill to where you're grateful for the fire. And as the sun hits, you're like, okay, I can handle this without needing extra gear. Like, this is enough where this is acceptable now. A decent amount of dew on the ground. You can tell that up here, that like the moisture clings a little differently than it did down in the valleys of the east part of Aramea. And you guys have the morning to do with as you see fit.
Tessian will use shape water to refill our canteens with the dew.
Okay. That feels like showing off, but all right.
I walk by and roll
100%.
my eyes, and I get on the cart.
I'm gonna help like take camp down and all of that, but I'm definitely gonna kind of beeline it for Isaac when I get a second.
Okay.
So I can talk to him about what I dreamed. I dreamed a dream.
Are we
So
here? Are you here with me?
We
Yeah,
can do it.
Isaac
We can do it
ignores
now,
you.
or like, I don't care. Whatever.
Might as well.
Okay.
No need to sit on it.
So, Isaac, are you just like in the
I'm
wagon?
like putting my I'm standing in the back of the cart, like putting my like bag in it and kind of like fumbling around with it to get everything kind of like secured and ready.
I kind of like go around the back, like where you are, and I try and like meet your eyes so I can give you a look.
I'm a little like, don't pick up on it at first because I'm a little whatever. So I'm like, morning, Grail. And I keep doing my thing. I'm not picking up on it.
And I clear my throat and say, good morning, Isaac. And I kind of leave it almost like as a question, like, Isaac, I guess, just to see like if you pick up on that at all.
I mean, I do, but I just still like, what's up?
And since you ask, I will kind of look from side to side to see if there's anyone in earshot, and if there is not, I will just say, can I talk to you for a second?
And I stop fiddling and I'm like, yeah, let's take a quick walk.
Okay. So yeah, I'll kind of just like lead just a little ways off, not like it's like some obvious like here we go, but just like just away from the cart a little bit and away from the camp. And I kind of pull him aside and I say, I had another dream.
From your tone, it doesn't sound like it was pleasant.
They never seem to be. This one in particular is especially vague. I'm wondering if we should stop at Sheepstop Hollow and see how my family's doing. I know it's it's not really out of the way. It's actually not at all out of the way, but I don't know if we want to bring everyone there. I just...
Grail, what was your... Because I kind of like interrupt
Yeah,
you.
I'm like kind of rambling. Yeah.
What did you dream? Is everything okay? That's not a good question, but tell me what happened.
Well, so everything seemed all right, except, I mean, everything was in its place. It's where it was supposed to be, where I left it. But Mama, she was on the bed in her room. I didn't see my father. She was crying, like sobbing. Hands like kind of like resting in her head, on her head. And I've never really, she's a very strong woman is the thing. And I rarely see her cry, and this was not just like little tears. This was full-on sobs. And we know how my dreams are, and I don't know if this is happening now, if it's going to happen years from now. If she looked to be about the right age as she is now, so I don't know.
Grail, if you could do me a favor and next time... dream in your mind's eye of a calendar on the wall. That I think would help us a lot. But in all seriousness, yeah, of course, I don't need more detail than if you think we need to stop by the house, then we will stop by the house. But was there the gold specks?
And I nod pretty like fervently and say, if there's anything I remember, it's that they were there. and they're not in all of my dreams, as we've discussed before. So, if anything, it's worth checking out just for that reason alone.
I'm with you. I will let you take the lead on how you want to explain it to the group. If you want to make something up, that's fine. Or if you want to come clean about your dreams, I'll leave it up to you.
I mean, I kind of like think about it. I think about Tessian telling me about his family curse, and I say, I mean, there are some things I think we can leave, undiscussed from the group, but something like this, I think maybe I should tell. I'm hesitant to discuss the dream I had, the last dream I had, but for this situation, I think it's worth bringing up.
I'll follow your lead, but I'm with you. And I agree. I think we should stop by Sheep
Stop.
Okay.
Oh, stop. Sheep stop, yeah.
Sheep stop. The sheep
Stop
stops
by
here.
sheep stop. Yeah. And I nod and I say, I thank him, and I kind of like turn around and go back to the campsite.
Well, I walk with you, and I'm like, so anything else happened last night? Eventful?
Oh, Tessian just told us about a family curse that he has. No big deal. And I kind of like give him like a side eye.
Oh yes, life is so hard for Tessian. I feel really bad about everything with him.
Well, I mean, I'm to his credit, it sounds like a fairly debilitating kind of curse he's got put on him. He can't rule as a result. You should ask him about it sometime.
I don't know how much I care about Tessian's impotence, but if it comes up, I suppose we can discuss it.
Isn't that the problem? It doesn't.
And oh my god, and I do laugh at that also because I think that is pretty funny. But I kind of like tisk him, like, whatever, and nothing's ever gonna get through to Isaac. He's just gonna be bitter forever, I guess. And I'll say, other than that, it was not super lively. Where did you run off to?
Just thinking. Just needed some time to myself.
Ah, yes, the patented Isaac think. Oh, Isaac. Did you come to any conclusions? Any eureka moments for you?
Not really. Not more than what I talked about yesterday with all this silly stuff of symbols and trying to inspire others, aspire for greatness in myself. I think it's just time to be who I feel like I should be and feel who I really am.
Well, I think that's good. I think embracing who you are is extremely important to this group and to your own growth, Isaac. I think it's a good decision.
We'll see. I was warned that I needed to change, that I was going down a wrong path from someone who meant a lot to me. But I've tried to go down the path that he set for me, and it's just not working. I'm at odds with myself, and I can feel it. I can feel the rift tearing me apart. So something has to change.
Well, let's not let it get that far. And you're very hard on yourself, Isaac. I think you're doing well. And considering where I found you, gosh, it was only, a month ago? Like, it's been a very short time. I think you've grown tremendously in that time, and I'm honored to know you, and I think you're going to do great things as yourself.
Well, I appreciate it. I suppose time will tell.
Time will. It will. And we'll all be here to see it through.
But enough about me. It doesn't matter. I think we should make what's the word? Haste.
There it is. Make haste, yeah.
Sheep stop.
All right, let's.
It's hard to say that seriously. Okay.
Her
Yeah,
name,
and
her name, not mine.
hey, I did come up with it. So yeah. So yeah, we'll probably at this point we'll probably reach the cart, the campsite, and I kind of I seek out Lena and say I have a request if possible.
Sure, what is it?
When we were coming up over the hills here, I didn't see my home, the ranch that I grew up on, but it is nearby, and I was wondering if it's possible that we could stop by. And the reason I ask is I don't think y'all know, but I've been having these interesting dreams, visions, one might say. Lena, you would be familiar with this. We all seem to have visions, don't we?
Right.
I've had a few in the last few months, and the one that I had last night was about my family, and I think it would be worth stopping by, and they'd be very hospitable to us and let us stay there as well. It's a big ranch, and if that's not too far out of the way, I would appreciate it very much.
And I nod and I say, of course, I'd be happy to take us there, no problem. But you have visions too. What kind?
It's actually kind of unclear. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I don't know if all of them are visions of the future. So far, the ones that I've had that have come to fruition are of the future. Some of them I'm unclear as if they've already happened or if they will. But when they do, they're very specifically the exactly how they played out in my visions. So I guess they're future vision in some capacity. In this particular one, my mother seemed very upset, and she's a very strong woman, strong-willed. Rarely see the woman cry, and she was beside herself, and I'm concerned.
And I nod. My face is very serious now that you've told me what the vision is of, and I say, of course, just guide me there, and we'll get you there as quickly as possible. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, what am I going to say? I kind of brighten at this, and I say, fortunately, it is on the way to the west. It's westward. So hopefully maybe it'll help us out in terms of where we need to go next. Did you happen to have any luck last night?
I actually did. It was hazy. Vision wasn't very clear. The only thing I really got out of it was the feeling to go northwest. I'm not sure how far northwest, where that even is, or where the next shrine is in that direction, but that's the feeling I got. So
Northwest. This is a question for Chris. Do we have to go through Timberbrook to go to Sheepstop Hollow?
No, Timberbrook's further west than that.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. But it is kind of on the way, yeah?
Essentially, it's a little bit further. I don't want to say south, but it's more south than Timberbrook is, if that makes sense.
It's not just a straight line.
No, it's mostly due west, but a little bit south to get to Sheepstop Hollow. Timberbrook is mostly due west, but a little bit north and further out.
And where's Willow?
That's
something
almost directly due west, but it's also only a few hours travel from here. Sheepstop Hollow would probably take a full day's travel from this point. Now you've already gone the amount you did from the shrine.
Okay.
And Timberbrook is still at least probably 2 days away.
Okay. Okay, so
you also know that Glencogo is northwest, further north than Timberbrook is, probably still a little under a day as well. So the four kind of form a diamond of sorts, not an exact equal-sided one, but Glencogo is northwest, Timberbrook is far west, Sheepstop Hollow is west-southwest, and Glencogo is pretty Willowdale is pretty close to the west.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess at this point we might as well tell everybody what's going on.
Yeah, Tessian's telling Crash a story right now. Just he's trying to tell an embarrassing story about Thea, and You know, it's about how like the first time she was, casting dragon's breath, and he's just like, and so she was hiccuping small fireballs for the entire day. It was impossible to eat anything, but she burned her entire meal. It was hilarious.
She did not burn any buildings down, did she?
And Tessa, well, no, unless you count, all the food, little buildings of food.
Buildings of food.
And Thea's over by the cart, kind of making sure things are packed up and helping to chip in with, picking up the campsite. And she says, he's not going to understand that.
And Tessa's like, it was hilarious, Karash. Just trust me on this. It was quite funny. It was quite funny.
Ah.
And Tessie just shakes his head. He's like, well, I guess we should finish up here. And he sees everyone talking over someplace else.
I kind of like turn and like gesture for Tessian to come over, and Karash, since they're all kind of in the same area.
Yeah, they head over,
Yeah.
or Tessie does.
It'd be a weird time to be like, nah.
Eh. So yeah, I'll just explain what I explained to Lena, and see if everyone's on board and okay with stopping, going a little bit out of the way. I mean, to be fair, we don't really know where we're going. Should we stop in Willowdale and then head down? Would that make sense, or would we cut across?
It depends. Willowdale's
Oh.
certainly close. Again, like a few hours tops at this point. You could make Sheep stop. It's going to take you most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of up to you guys and how you want to approach it.
Okay. Well, I'll pose that then as an option.
I mean, you did mention that you had a dream. You tossed all that in
Yeah.
there too. Okay.
Yeah.
And Tessian's like, well, if this dream of yours is potentially true, and I am not a big fan of the belief that divination spells are 100% accurate. Let me just state that clearly. But
I agree.
if that is the case, then I think we should head there as quickly as possible, especially because we may be able to prevent whatever this is from happening.
My major concern is that this is something far in the future, and so we go out of our way, and my mom's fine, and my father's fine, and there was no reason to go. The dreams I've have had very small windows in which they have occurred, I will say, but who's to say that that's the case now? I don't have enough experience to know, and nothing looked older than normal, so I'm led to believe that this is something we should follow up on now.
They are your family, and you had a vision. We will go.
Crash is just so like, yes, on board. It has to do with family. And I give him kind of like a reassuring nod and kind of like a thank you, a very quiet thank you, and kind of like make sure that everyone else seems to be fine with this too. And I thank them. Yeah.
Everybody is nodding and on board.
100%.
Next question: do we go to Willow? Is there anything we need in a town? Because Sheepstop Hollow is not large.
Other than potentially like rations or supplies, I don't know that we need, and we got a bunch of extra from the Duchess, so like we should be fine. I think we just head there myself.
And like I said, there's spots for us to stay. It's a large ranch, and my family will make sure that we're accommodated. So, okay,
I think it's good.
thank you. We go.
Yeah.
The journey is set, and the game is on.
The game is on.
And Lord,
I hope I don't see Holden. Don't find us there, Holden.
What?
You're a piece of shit.
I mean, was
No,
Holden in the vision?
No, but I'm scared.
He was in the closet in the vision. You couldn't see him, but he was lurking.
I know. He's always lurking.
Yeah, you learned how to lurk from him.
I did.
All right, so you guys kind of finish packing up things as best you can, knowing that you have a decent length travel ahead of you. Regular configuration, I'm assuming. Lena driving,
Yeah.
getting in tune with the horses. I want you to make an animal handling check, though.
Oh.
This is why you're driving,
Yes,
because we.
it's been a while. I want to see how things are going with the new animals that we have not yet checked to see how they're handled.
18.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
You can handle those horses
Excellent.
well.
Fast friends with the horses. They're on board with like whatever you got to do. So far, everything's been great on the journey. They're happy with you. You're happy with them. If they could speak and they can't, they would be really happy with the performance so far.
If only these
Excellent.
horses were part of your Cronatus.
Hey,
They are.
she could have taken speak with animals last level.
I could have. I didn't, but I could have.
Lena, it's so good to see you.
I sure do love sugar.
You got any carrots?
Speak with animals, limited by the intelligence of said animals. Horses are not stupid, obviously, but, you know, still, they only know so much. Oh, well, let me tell you about governmental matters. So, knowing that you have pretty much a full day's journey ahead of you, is there anything that happens along to this time in Les Cartes that you would like to get done?
We can always try to, especially because Thea's still here, try to continue our lessons on Draconic and just language and writing with Karash. And
He seems on board.
And I know Thea wanted to draw him at some point. He's got his shiny armor. It's still shiny now. It'd be a perfect time.
Yeah, she
So,
intends to be doing that as part of this. That's one of the things, yes.
Yeah,
Draw a Karash like one of your French Karashes.
exactly.
If I'm not teaching
just-
Karash, it's fine. I'm not bitter. I'm going to try. I'm going to keep learning myself Draconic from the scrolls.
And Thea intends to recruit you to help. She's not trying to take this over herself, but she wants to be involved.
Yeah.
I'm guessing everyone else is in the cart then. So who's up with Lena? Can I go sit up with her?
Seems that way.
Okay, I will then.
Yay.
So
I figure it makes no sense anyway if we drive up and my parents see me. So
Right.
So
yeah.
while I have been keeping tabs of how the checks have been going, I immediately forget what we've been doing for these. Is it intelligence that Karash has been doing for these? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I'm just making sure.
No, I have to do
Intelligence checks.
checks too because I'm
see
also
how-
trying to learn.
You're trying to learn and also just to
And
see
teach.
how well you teach. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thea will as well.
well, Karash, it was fun.
Oh. Oh.
I hope that's not a natural one.
No.
Okay. I was to say,
Uh,
you forget everything.
With that -2, it's not helping you, buddy.
No.
No.
Suddenly and mysteriously, you begin writing in kanji.
Oh, no. Well, she has a +3 to intelligence. That's good. All right. So Thea's is a 16.
Am I doing intelligence
Yes.
too? Okay.
To see how well you're learning the draconic aspect of this and how well you're able to also help.
And then is that that's not a saving throw? That's like a click up by the.
Yeah, if you just click up by the ability scores, it should roll raw intelligence. Because it is sometimes different. Not very often at these levels, but it can be.
9.
So Thea is an enthusiastic and good teacher in this sense, and she's trying to kind of work with both of you. So for Karash, it's trying to help you learn Common in particular, though. She's also trying to show you little bits of Draconic and how it's written here and there. The problem is both of you are feeling a bit distracted from yesterday's events and the prospect of a long cart ride today, and you're picking a few things up, but it's really not latching on all that well. And Karash, you in particular, you're like, it's not a waste of a day, but you're like, something's distracting, and you're not entirely sure what, but it just feels like you're not as attentive as you want to be.
I'm admittedly half-hearted in this today, so I'm like, come on, Karash, you don't know this simple step, and then like I don't know it either, so it's just like it's bad all the way around.
And Thea is patient and thorough when it comes to this stuff, but eventually she even kind of picks up on the fact that it's just like not the best time for it. And she says, after maybe like an hour of this and trying to pick up a few things, she goes, well, we could certainly try this another time, too. I don't want to push you guys too far.
Another time sounds good.
I will practice my letters.
Do you mind if I sketch you while you do so, Karash?
No.
So she begins to work on that process. That'll take a while because you know how detailed she can be.
I'm going to repeatedly look up and see what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. And each time you move to look up, she says, now, hold still best you can. but the temptation keeps coming, so you keep kind of leaning over a bit, and like to keep the movement smaller. And as long as she's not making a huge movement, she seems to be okay with that. Then
I'm going to try to move so slowly she cannot see me.
You're gonna pull a Drax.
Exactly.
Yes. Nothing goes over my head. Anything happen in the front of the wagon?
I'm gonna be. I'm kind of excited to be in this region. I haven't been to this part of the country before, so I'll be asking Grail if she's familiar with anything, and like what was it like growing up on a ranch, and like how different it must have been. Like I want to absorb all the new information.
And yeah, I guess I am fairly familiar with this area. Probably not this far out, I'm guessing.
Yeah, this is an area you know of but haven't been to, but you're aware of the places because your family did at least some business in the nearby cities. But this one in particular, because there was no reason for you to head to the past. Yeah, you not particularly that familiar with Willowdale, other than knowing of its existence and where it is.
Yeah, but
Tessian's leaning in. He's leaning in. He wants to listen. That's what's going on.
But yeah, I mentioned like the flora and fauna is all familiar, and the actual like region is familiar. And I'll also mention that I really liked growing up on a ranch. It was peaceful, and it was a lot of work, I will say. It was my two brothers and me and my mom, my pa, and it was hard work. And then it was just Holden and me and my parents, and that was even harder work. But it's satisfying. You have your family, you have pretty much everything that you need right there in the ranch, and it's that's kind of self-sustaining kind of environment is it's good to feel that way. But I also didn't know much about the world around me, as you probably could tell. It's been rather taxing on me to be out in this world and explore, and it's not something that I'm familiar with, so it's definitely new. And I was rather sheltered as well, but I enjoyed it very much. As for my childhood, it was delightful, spending time with the sheep and our other farm animals that we took care of, and my family. It was a good childhood. I will say though, I'm glad to be here with y'all too.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I know this could potentially be a very long journey, but I appreciate the support all the same. I think your childhood sounds wonderful. I'm kind of envious of you. Well, where I grew up, we were very isolated as well, but with my father ruling over the Sowenwood day in, day out, I didn't get to see him very much or spend time with him, and I was not the best child myself. I didn't take my studies very seriously, always trying to sneak out of the palace and explore.
You sound like Holden. You sound a lot like him, actually, in a lot of ways. Kinder.
And I kind of nod and I say, I wonder if we could have been friends if we had. And then I just kind of fall quiet. And then I shake my head and say, well, I am looking forward to meeting your family. I'm excited to see where you came from and the sheep and the animals. It sounds exciting.
It's nothing near what it used to be. Unfortunately, a lot of the area was burned down. But we're rebuilding, and things are kind of looking up for us. And I hope that my dream was nothing but that, and that when we see my family, everything will be just fine, and it'll be under good circumstances that you can meet my family. But I'm worried that it won't be. So we'll see. We'll see. At any rate, I'm excited for y'all to meet them as well.
So where did you learn all these amazing skills of yours, Grail? Did you
amazing skills? Whatever are you talking about, Tessian?
And he's like, "Oh, you're quite good with that blade of yours. Is it What's the trick? Is it the sheep? Shearing the sheep? Is that what it was? A little snip here, a little snip there?
I mean, there is that element to it. You have to have a very steady hand, and you have to be able to hold them suckers too. They sometimes hate getting the shear in, that's for sure. They get used to it after a while, for the most part, but it does take a deft hand for sure. But no, I actually learned a lot of my my daggering skills and my rapier skills from my brother. He taught me a lot of what I know, actually. The same goes for my my bow. My pa and my ma as well, and my brothers. We would all go out hunting for deer and the like. So I know a thing or two about shooting a bow.
Tessian nods. He's like, it's so interesting how things are different but the same. You know, in my family it was spell books and, you know, magical philosophy and those sorts of things. But, you know, my cousins, my older sisters and whatnot. But no hunting. No, Black Harbor's more of a fishing town than anything else. But it's strange how that works with families, isn't it?
It's true.
Always pick up things from those above you and always pass it on.
Yeah, I was very grateful that they taught me these things. I obviously wouldn't have known otherwise, and I don't know too many people who are, you know, skilled with bows. Though, I mean, I'm sure more people are than I know. I just don't know them. I don't know too many people. But it is true. Families they're all different, but they're almost all the same in some way.
Tessie, and he's like, yeah, my older sister's pretty good with a bow herself. Maybe
Oh,
someday
really?
you'll meet her, but she tends to be off on. Well, she's busy a lot of times, so.
Oh, I would like to meet her very much.
And someday, hopefully, and he looks to Lena. He's like, we'll be able to go to the Sowenwood.
And I kind of laugh and nod and say, well, I would love to go back, assuming that the circumstances change and improve.
Tessie nods. He remembers that.
It's almost like the only family we don't want to meet is Isaac's.
And we want to meet them, but like, you know, to
Do
kill
we?
them,
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
Yeah. And we're already kind of meeting Karash's family as we go.
Yeah, meanwhile, Karash is in the corner kind of white-knuckling it.
Aww. No.
Oh.
I hate it.
Yeah, his brother's dead.
Oh.
Oh.
I don't think we know that.
I don't.
No, you don't.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't even know he had siblings.
So now you can't commiserate with poor Karash because you don't know.
Yeah, we're just up in the front.
Family.
Family.
Everybody has a great family.
I'm sitting in the back, slowly digging my pencil into the paper.
Yeah, Isaac staring daggers into the to the
Can
ground.
I at least notice, because I'm not involved in this family bullshit, can I at least notice that Karash is visibly dealing with something?
Make a perception check.
Tessian's up there. He actually pulls out his journal and starts showing you some of his family members, Grail.
Aww.
23
Whoa.
perception.
Yeah, you notice.
Ooh.